In his previous life, the main character lost his father at a young age. As he was growing up, he made a plan for himself on how to succeed in life. However, his mother tried to force him to become a shaman. The main character rejects his mother's words, trying to forge his own path in life, but eventually he dies because of a traffic accident. While on the verge of death, he thinks about where his life went wrong, when suddenly, he's reborn in a completely different world. At a train station in the middle of a snowy city, Ludger Cherish boards a train to an unknown destination. He walks down the train to cabin number 403. Inside the room, an old man is sitting down reading a paper. The old man greets Ludger as he sits down on one of the benches in the cabin, and Ludger nods in return. Eventually, as the train departs from the station and starts moving through the snowy wilderness, Ludger opens a book and starts reading it while both of them are sitting in silence inside the cabin. Soon though, Ludger turns his head up and sees the back of the newspaper the old man was reading, where Ludger sees an article talking about how the civil war in the kingdom of Utah is over. The article goes on to talk about how the war ended in the victory of the princess's faction. In response to this, Ludger speaks to the old man, talking about how glad he is that the civil war is finally over. The old man looks at Ludger over his paper. He agrees with Ludger, also voicing how he is happy the war has ended. After talking to each other for a bit, the old man introduces himself as Gerrard. Gerrard then points out that Ludger must be a noble, as only nobles in this world have last names. Ludger says that he's from a fallen noble family and asks Gerrard where he is heading. Gerrard says that he's going touring, and he plans to visit the capital of the empire. Ludger responds by saying that he has been appointed as a teacher at the Ceoren Academy. Gerrard comments on how skilled Ludger must be to be appointed as a professor at such a young age, but Ludger acts as if it was no big deal. While talking, Ludger brings up a figure known as Machiavelli, a wandering mercenary who was said to be a key player in the civil war that had just ended. Gerrard doesn't show much of a reaction to this, but on the inside reveals that Machiavelli is one of the many names Gerrard used while on the hunt for a certain object. While talking, the train is suddenly hit by a huge explosion, rocking the carriages and shocking the two men. They try to think about what could be causing such a huge commotion, before realizing that the train must be under attack by some robbers. They even theorize that there must be a wizard amongst the people attacking the cart. As the two men leave their carriage, they walk out into the hall cautiously. They realize that because of the explosion, the train cars are no longer safe, as the magic protection on them must have been dispelled. While the two are distracted, a man swings through the glass of the carriage. Ludger yells at Gerrard to run away. However, the two stand their ground against the robber. The thief runs at Ludger with a knife. However, Ludger launches an electric spell back at him, knocking him back and paralyzing him. Ludger walks over to the man on the floor and tries to interrogate him, asking why they tried to attack the train. The thief laughs before yelling that Ludger and Gerrard deserve to die, revealing a bomb vest inside of his jacket. The timer ticks down and Ludger is too close to the explosion to get away. The bomb goes off and the wall of the train car is blasted off. After the smoke clears, Gerrard sits curled up trying to protect him from the explosion. He coughs and gets up, trying to find Ludger, but Ludger and the thief were both vaporized in the explosion. Gerrard looks around before realizing his face has peeled off in the bottom left. He sighs and rips it off, revealing that he was using a fake face the entire time. Gerrard reveals that he used the name Machiavelli to disguise his actions. He has been involved in a lot, and that Machiavelli is just one of the many names he has used. After the war had ended that Machiavelli was involved in, he tried to make a new identity and go into hiding. He had boarded this train in order to stay hidden, but he ran into this mess while trying to escape. Machiavelli throws away his old face and wishes that Ludger is able to rest in peace, feeling sad that his new friend had to die. Thinking to himself, Machiavelli realizes that the thief had to be special in order to detonate a bomb while being electrocuted. So Machiavelli tries to think of who the criminals could be. While he's thinking, he's approached by one of the staff of the train, who is shocked to see the hole in the train. The staff member asks Machiavelli what happened in the train car, to which Machiavelli responds that they were attacked by a robber. The staff member gets nervous and tries to tell Machiavelli to evacuate the train as soon as he can, but Machiavelli notices something fishy in the man's attitude. Machiavelli attacks the man and pins him to the floor, saying that he won't be tricked by such petty acting. Machiavelli says that the raiders appeared very fast, as if they had been waiting for the train to show up. Machiavelli also points out that the protection magic on the train had been broken from inside, While still on top of the man, Machiavelli accuses him of being the one to help the raiders get aboard the train. In response to this, the man pulls out a knife and tries to attack Machiavelli. Machiavelli, however, is able to stop the man from moving and starts questioning him about why they attacked the train. The man refuses to say anything, so Machiavelli takes him hostage and plans to leave the train with him. Suddenly, Machiavelli hears a noise at the end of the train car and uses the man as a shield. Bullets shoot through the train staff's chest, but Machiavelli is able to duck down and survive. Armed raiders burst into the train car holding machine guns, and they are shocked that there is still someone alive in the train. Machiavelli stands up and faces the men, who hold up their weapons and prepare to shoot at him once again. Reacting quickly though, Machiavelli uses some form of magic to interfere with the raiders' guns. The raiders are shocked that Machiavelli is actually a wizard, but Machiavelli's magic is cancelled out by the magic of someone else. From behind Machiavelli, another group of raiders appear, with another wizard standing on their side. Machiavelli is surrounded on both sides and is told to surrender by the raiders. The raider wizard thinks that Machiavelli must be a 4th-ranked wizard. Machiavelli tries to think of a way to escape and realizes that it will take a very long time for any help to arrive. He is out of other options, so Machiavelli jumps out of the hole in the train while it is still moving. The raiders think that he completely left the train, but a bolt of magic appears from above and kills one of them. They realize that Machiavelli must be standing on the roof of the train, so they try to chase him. The raiders use their guns and shoot through the roof, forcing Machiavelli to run along the train away from them. The raiders hear his footsteps and follow him down the train, but when they try to open a door to get through the train, it suddenly explodes, killing many of the raiders. They realize that Machiavelli must have left traps for them to run into, which scares the raiders. As they are shocked, they hear a noise and feel the train started to slow down. They realize that Machiavelli must have separated the train carts, leaving them behind. As they watch the train drive away, they curse at Machiavelli for tricking them, but they are suddenly interrupted by a strong wave of mana. Looking back, they see Machiavelli preparing a massive spell aimed right at them. Machiavelli fires the spell, which forms into a laser and vaporizes all of the raiders. One of the raiders, the wizard, is able to survive. The only raider alive is angry at Machiavelli for killing all of his friends in cold blood, but Machiavelli doesn't seem to care. Machiavelli says that the raiders tried to kill him first. Suddenly, as the raider is in the middle of speaking, he is cut in half by a blade of ice. A woman in formal clothing appears behind him and asks Machiavelli if he is okay. She tells Machiavelli that everything is going to be okay and that she is part of the Cold Steel Knights. Somewhere else on the train, the raiders are fighting against another Cold Steel Knight. They fire bullets at him, but they are repelled by his magic. The knight uses his magic to kill the raiders. Before seeing that the compartment has been cleared, the other knights also reports in, saying that their compartments have been cleared too. The woman from earlier turns out to be the vice captain of the knights. She tells the knights to escort the passengers to safety. At the next station, the vice captain of the knights talks to Machiavelli, asking him if he was hurt during the attack. The woman introduces herself as Veronica de Ville, but before she is able to hear Machiavelli's name, a man in a trench coat starts to talk to her. The man says that his name is Remlis and that he is from the police department. Veronica and Remlis talk about the attack on the train, but Remlis tells Veronica that the train had been taken over way too quickly. Remlis says he suspects someone on the train was helping the raiders, and Veronica agrees. Veronica then tells Machiavelli that he just has to be honest in the investigation and that everything will be fine. But Machiavelli is extremely worried about being questioned, because Machiavelli lost the face he used under the name Gerrard. He won't be able to use that name anymore. Machiavelli tries to think of a way out of his situation, realizing that escape is impossible because of all the guards that are standing outside. He also thinks that Veronica won't forgive him for being a criminal and hiding his identity. Remlis comes to the cabin to ask Machiavelli who he is, and he is suspicious that there is only one person in the cabin when there were supposed to be two. Machiavelli explains that the other person was killed in an explosion, but Remlis is still suspicious. Suddenly though, Veronica tells Remlis that Machiavelli was fighting the raiders on the train, and says that Machiavelli shouldn't be a suspect. Remlis is shocked by this, and apologizes to Machiavelli, but mistakes Machiavelli's identity for Ludger, the man who sat in the cabin with Gerrard. Remlis and Veronica are shocked that Ludger had been appointed as a professor at Ceoren Academy. With no other option, Machiavelli accepts the name of Ludger and pretends to be him. Later in the day, Remlis tries to escort Machiavelli, now using Ludger's identity, to Ceoren Academy, but Machiavelli refuses. Machiavelli says goodbye to Veronica and Remlis and walks off. Apologizing to Ludger in his head, Machiavelli is glad to finally be out of the situation. In this world, photography is not very advanced, so Machiavelli looks close enough to Ludger in the photos. While thinking about making a new identity, Machiavelli hears someone calling for Ludger and he turns around. An old man named Wilford introduces himself as an employee at Ceoren Academy. Wilford says that he is there to pick Ludger up after hearing about the train incident. Unable to refuse, Machiavelli gets in the carriage and is taken by Wilford to Ceoren Academy. Wilford takes Ludger to see the principal of Ceoren Academy. Ludger stands in front of the principal and introduces himself, where the principal introduces herself as Alyssa Willow. Alyssa asks if Ludger is doing okay and asks him about the terrorist attack he got caught in. Alyssa is happy that Ludger was not injured in the attack and comments on how handsome Ludger is. Alyssa hands Ludger a contract which talks about Ludger's pay. Ludger is shocked at the amount that he will be paid as a professor and decides to take the job seriously. Ludger agrees to sign the contract and shakes hands with the principal. Ludger goes to his room and realizes he has 3 weeks to prepare for classes. While sitting in his room, Ludger thinks about his past. Ludger had been reborn with no abilities and only the memories of his past life. He had to go through a lot of trouble to survive, but now Ludger had become a professor at Ceoren Academy. The old Ludger had no family and friends who knew what he looked like, which made him the perfect fake identity to use. Ludger starts preparing for the lessons he needs to teach and tries to learn about the campus of Ceoren. 2 weeks later, Ludger is sitting at a table outside drinking tea. In the 2 weeks, Ludger finished preparing for most of his classes and only needed to practice the lectures to make sure they were flawless. But while he is drinking tea, someone sits in the seat behind Ludger and asks him why they didn't hear from him for 2 weeks. Ludger is shocked by this, but thinks fast and says that there was something that he had to check. The other person responds by saying that the terrorist attack was just an accident, and that they didn't know rebels would start to attack by then. Ludger then asks for information about Ceoren Academy, saying he needs to verify it. Ludger is extremely confused about what is happening, but tries to play along so his true identity isn't revealed. Ludger asks the mysterious figure if everything was properly taken care of by them. The figure responds by saying that they just finished assassinating all the key figures at the academy. The mysterious figure talks about getting rid of traitors to the organization, but suddenly apologizes to Ludger for getting something wrong in the report. Ludger, now even more confused, asks the figure why they came to meet him. The mysterious figure says that they didn't hear anything for half a month, which Ludger responds to by intimidating them. Ludger realizes that the figure must be scared of him, and uses that to his advantage while talking to them. Ludger asks the figure how many people have been gathered, and they respond by saying that 31 second orders and 7 third orders have infiltrated the academy. The figure also says that the other first orders have arrived and are already settled in. The figure asks Ludger to meet with them in a location at some time in the future, but Ludger scares the figure into meeting at some other time. Ludger then walks away, worried about the situation he's got himself into. As Ludger sits in his room, he thinks about the situation and how he can get out of it alive. Apparently, the old Ludger was a part of a secret society that managed to plant numerous spies in Ceoren Academy. This organization was also responsible for the assassination of numerous figures in the academy. From his conversation, Ludger learned that there were 4 ranks in the organization: the Third Order, the Second Order, the First Order, and the Zero Order. Apparently, the old Ludger was a part of the First Order, which is the second highest rank. Ludger worries that there will be someone in the organization who knew Ludger in the past, so he decides to try and help Ceoren Academy secretly take down the organization. Ludger realizes that the next 2 years will be extremely stressful for him, because he will have to deal with being a teacher and a member of a secret society, all while keeping his true identity as a secret as well. A few days later in Ludger's class, the students are talking about a rumor about them getting a new teacher. Apparently, the previous teacher lost an argument with a student in front of the entire class, which made him resign early. The student who won the argument is named Flora. The students then learn that their new teacher was from the military in the past. Before class starts, the students start making fun of Ludger behind his back, saying that he's just a fallen aristocrat. Finally, Ludger enters the room and all of the students stop talking. He slams his hand on the desk before introducing himself to the class. Ludger talks to the class about how he is planning to teach them. Because of Ludger's true identity, Ludger is very familiar with using magic in battle, and so he tells the students that he will be teaching them about that. He also tells the class of second-year students that first-year students will be able to join the class too. Some of the students are worried about this, and one of them asks Ludger why he is letting younger students join the class. He says that he wants to teach every student equally no matter what grade they are in. Ludger continues talking to the kids. He says that the class will not be easy for the students to take, and that he will make sure everyone takes the class as seriously as he can. Ludger is trying to make less students attend the class because that will make his job easier. He thinks that making the class difficult and allowing first-year students to join will make the older kids not like the class. Ludger leaves the class and a lot of the kids are shocked at how he acted as a new teacher. When he's walking away from the class, Ludger thinks about how he talked in front of the children and is worried that he may have messed up. He thinks that he may have scared the kids and made them not ask him any questions. While he is thinking, a teacher with pink hair talks to him and introduces herself as a new teacher as well.